Hello, my name is PantherKing, and I'm here with my great friend, Braxtonius the Great.
Hello.
So we're deciding to talk about, I decided to have some of my friends, or acquaintances, depending on who you are, shall not be named in orderly fashion, but we decided to talk about what we've been doing recently and what was basically our desire, what caused us, and what was the drive behind that, you know? So, yeah, I don't know what the name of this video will be called. I reckon I'll find out sometime later.
Yep.
But, so, Braxton, since the audience doesn't know what you've been doing for the past, few months, I should say. Well, basically a year, right?
Yeah, it's been a little more than a year, actually.
How long has it been, actually?
Probably, say a year and 3/4, almost 2 years ago.
Okay, cool. Alright, so he's been doing his thing for 2 years. I've been doing my thing since last September. And so, Braxton, what is that you have been doing for basically the last 2 years, basically?
So I've been doing kind of like a freelance flight school with a flight school in Greenville, and it's always something that I wanted to do ever since I can remember anything. And when I first started considering the idea of being a pilot, I was hit with the constant negative thoughts. This is too hard. I can't do this. It's going to cost too much money. But
in the end, you were able to pay it off, right?
Right. So eventually, what I did was I started researching. Well, first of all, I figured out that that's exactly what I had to do. I knew I had to go to flight school. I knew I had to learn how to be a pilot, and that was the only career option that was going to work for me in the near future and in the far future, distant future. So started looking them up, and the first thing I thought was, man, there's not going to be any flight schools anywhere near me. There's no way. I'm going to have to drive an hour and a half, 2 hours, 2.5 hours, whatever it is.
But, in all reality, we're not going to give out exact locations and distances, but it's basically 30 minutes, from your house, right?
Right. So when I started looking on the internet for flight schools, all I did was type in flight schools near me, and it pops up. There's one 40 minutes down the road, and I was astonished. I said, there's no way this is true. There's no way this is a legit accredited school. But it was. So I started looking at their website and everything. They were legit. They're accredited and everything. So then I thought to myself, well, no, there's no way I can go to this place. It's going to cost too much money. There's no way.
So, what did you actually go to the school to find out how much it costed? Or did you just, hear from a friend or something like that? Did you have any friends that were interested in flying or that were going to the school?
So I did actually have to go to the school to figure out what their prices were. They didn't have them on the internet at that time. So I went to the school. I talked to the top end manager at the place, and she was like, We'll come upstairs with me to my office. We'll talk about it, and we'll get you a price sheet. She gave me a specs sheet and everything with all the different prices for the different types of airplanes that you could rent. And so I finally settled in with one of the airplanes, and it ended up actually being well within probably anybody's price range who really wanted to do this. It was something like $10,000, $11,000 for a full private pilot license. That's not to say you can't get hired and make earn a salary on a private pilot certification. You have to go on up and get your instrument rating and your commercial license and all that stuff. But
for anybody who doesn't know that, what would it cost, or to take to get to your commercial license? Does it cost any more, or do you have to go through more school, or like what do you have to do?
Well, it would vary by which school you went to. So if you went to like a university somewhere in Raleigh, for example, they would have like basically one fixed price. I think I'm not exactly sure on this one, but they would have like one fixed price. Let's say it was like, I want to say that they're the King School, I think it was, or Blue Line Aviation, something like that in Raleigh. They've got prices for like $55,000. So it would be your private pilot, your instrument, your multi-engine, commercial license. I feel like there'd probably be a couple more, and I think you can actually get your ATP with them, Airline Transport Pilot Certification. I could not verify that though. But their prices would be like one set lump sum that you would pay off slowly after.
Right.
I reckon. I guess it would be kind of like a regular tuition to a college. But the way I did it, I just did it like kind of freelance on my own time. It cost something like $10,000-$11,000 for private pilot certificate.
So basically, what was your main goal? Like, what inspired you to do that? You know what I mean? Because everyone has their reason behind of what they do, you know? Like, what was your reason behind, like, you know, for wanting to go do that?
For wanting to become a pilot?
Yeah, like, or just, you know, just be able to get your own private pilot's license. Like, what inspired you to do so?
Well, in grand scheme of things, it's because I would like to make a career out of it eventually. So you had to start as private pilot and work your way up through it. But and with aviation though, it's always been a thing for me. Ever since I can remember anything, it was as a small kid, you know, going to air shows at the Marine Corps base or at Air Force base, and I could see myself there, and it's always just kind of been in the background until recently when I finally had a breakthrough with it, and I just said, I want to do this, and I've got to find a way to do this. And I started researching, and I found that it was actually affordable, and I found that it's not as hard as one might think it is. That's not to say there's not its own it has its own challenges built in that comes with it, but which it certainly does. But it's not impossible if you really want to achieve that goal, want to be a pilot. You know, you can do it. It's definitely not impossible, and that's the one thing that I would say to anybody, not necessarily anybody who wanted to just become a pilot, but someone who really wanted something, a career, a car, a house, you know, whatever it might be, forming a business. If you want it hard enough, and you got to set your sights on it, and you make that your goal, it doesn't have to be your only goal, but you make that your goal, and you work hard toward it, and you'll get it. And the fact is, you can't, I don't want to say you can't let prices discourage you of schools and stuff, but yeah, absolutely.
I'm sorry, but you're talking to a guy who basically had to turn down $275 for some custom stuff, okay?
Yep.
This is for wrestling.
Yep. But it's definitely worth the look into it. If you can't achieve it, it's definitely worth the look into it. Maybe you can find something at your price range, or maybe you can find the route that you need to take. And that's really the key goal. Anybody who listens to this to take out of this, you know, if you want something hard enough, go get it. I know all too many people who sit around and they talk about, I wish I had this job, I wish I had that job,
or like wanting to go do things, but like, you know, they just sit behind them, like, you know, sit on their butt and not do anything. All right, so you talk about some challenges there. Like, what would be one of the main challenges that you would see out of it? Like, is it more of a mental thing, or is it just, I don't know, like a physical? I can't say physical, because there's really, I don't think there's that much physical aspect into it. Do you think? Or
well, it does take a physical toll on you. I mean, going up and down through altitudes like that can work on your sinuses and everything, and then being that physically and mentally and physically, I should say, engaged for the time period that you've got to be there at the controls, flying the airplane, doing the pre-flight planning, doing the pre-flight checks, and all your flight planning. Basically, from the time that you decide you want to go somewhere to the time that you're finished with that flight, it's all a mental game, and there is some physical aspect of it, not too much. But,
so would you say it's more of a mental strain, or like, so from what you're telling me, you think it's like more of a mental challenge than anything else?
Right, yeah, it's definitely not like running a triathlon or anything physically, but yeah, the mental part of it is the most severe, in my opinion, because there's a lot of information. That's no better way I can put it. There's so much information to look at, there's so much to process, there's so much to put into just one single flight, so many regulations and stuff that you've got to be aware of, and minimum equipment lists, and I mean, the list just goes on forever. I can sit here and talk all night about that. But it's just, in the end, you find this reward from that hard work. And as Henry Ford once said, I'm gonna use this cliche thing. So you go and a man chops his own wood. If a man chops his own wood, it'll warm you twice. So
what do you think he means by that?
So I think that, you put in the hard work and the dedication to it, then obviously he's relating that as a metaphor to chopping your own wood. You get warm from doing that because you're physically active, and then once you've got the wood chopped, you can then burn it, and it warms you again with your fireplace. So you get the reward from the hard work, and you get the reward from reaping that hard work, I guess. Reaping what you sow. I don't know, that was a really cliche saying.
I mean, it's like, not a bad saying though, because technically it's like a physical aspect, because you kind of get that workout in and you warm up from it, because your body is basically, like, if it's like an average day, you're going to be out there and you're going to be sweating, and afterwards, like, nighttime when the cool comes in, you can have that fire that warms up the place and stuff like that.
Twice.
So, I mean, it makes sense on that aspect. So, I mean, is there anything else you want to add to what do you want to say? You know what? I got one more question for you.
Okay.
So, in the grand scheme of things, if there would be any business that you would prefer to fly for, like Southwest, or like, private business, like, like privately, like for, I want to say, athletes or singers and stuff like that, like, is that your main goal, or is it just for, like, what is your purpose for this? You know what I mean? Do you have a purpose behind what you do?
So I definitely want to go through and get all my certifications and ratings and everything, and be eligible for hire. And what company I work for, I have no preference, but I think, like, as the career progresses, I think that in the end of it all, I want to end up as not necessarily a corporate pilot, but somebody who's either someone's private pilot, privately hired pilot, or a corporate pilot to some executive or something. I just feel like that would be better up my alley than certain other careers.
They're flying like a whole bunch of people.
I mean, I wouldn't mind that, but it's just like, in the end, I feel like that'd be what I'd want to work towards doing.
Okay. So, is there? I'm not trying to sound like cliche myself, but so what if? So after you, like, you make your career out of this, right? Would you buy, like, what would you do with your money? Like, what would you do with your time? Like, would you spend it wisely, or would you be like, or would you just spend it all? You know what I mean? Right. Would you invest your money, or would you just throw it out there?
So I'm not really sure what to do with it, right? Like, because I don't know what the pay will be when I get there, but from everything I look at, it doesn't look terrible. So I'll say that. But I would definitely like to invest in things. I've always been looking at the stock market, saying I'm gonna do this and that, but I just never really...
It's like, you know, a lot of people have, like, you know, hard times on the stock market. Apparently GameStar's having a great time.
And I would definitely invest in real estate. I would want to have my own house. I prefer to own rather than rent. But if the pay was good enough, I'd love to save up and buy a Ford GT. I'm sorry, it just has to happen one day. If I'm able to make that much money, you know, only if I was able to make enough money and save it wisely, I'd love to own a Ford GT one day. I just think that's the most epic vehicle ever made.
Okay, but like when you say Ford GT, which year model we're talking about here, good sir?
I don't know.
Is there not a preference for that, or
probably not a preference?
Okay.
But in reality, I think that, you know, if I was getting paid extensive amount, I would rather try and give back to people versus keeping it all to myself. I've always said that if I was able to win the lottery, you know, win it big, that first thing I would do is I would help my friends out, I'd help my family out, and then immediately thereafter I would buy said Ford GT.
you buy said Ford GT.
I would have a few airplanes.
Yeah, but like, hold on, we are like, forget about the fact that you have to pay property tax and all that crap.
You know, but I would definitely have a few airplanes. But I think that something I would love to do is to, how do I word this? To go into neighborhoods where kids don't really have much, poorer neighborhoods, and maybe show them what aviation is like, because they may never ever have that chance to fly. And show them what it's like. Take them to these big cities and just let them enjoy themselves for a while. You know, I've got plenty of money at that point, I guess. Take the parents along, take the kids, take the old friends you knew from high school who never talked to you, that you probably actually don't really know, because they're just like, hey, I knew you in high school, but
can you do this one for me?
I didn't never really know them, you know.
Right.
You remember me? I was your good friend in 12th grade. No, you weren't.
No, you weren't, you mess.
I don't know who you are.
I don't know you.
But I just think that would be so cool. And
right.
To do those.
To like to invest into those things.
Yep.
Makes sense.
Help make somebody besides myself happy with the fortune that I was so richly blessed with. You know what I mean?
So you basically, your end goal is try to be as selfless as you can.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, that's the way
Right. Well, so coming like off of like, you know, what the main goal was like for me, because right now wrestling it has its like really truly high moments. I'm like really blessed to know to people who have able to know on this journey so far, because one thing for sure is that I was like, I think, because I've told you before, like, you know, like sometime last year, it's like, you know what, I want to try to find a wrestling place. I really truly do. And so I was looking up, like, there was like there was like gyms and all that stuff. Like, one of the places that popped up was it's like wrestling academies, like looking for that stuff. Nothing was coming up. Like, I believe one place was believe it was actually the place I'm going now, but I can't remember. But in the end, it was like, I was like, you know what? I'm going to try it. I'm going to contact one of my high school friends that I played football with. And the contact was like, hey, did you have to go to like a wrestling school and stuff like that?
The
Yeah.
friend you're talking about, he's doing wrestling now.
Yeah, right. And don't know if he gets paid for it now, especially with all COVID stuff happening, but coronavirus. But yeah, so I asked him, and because I seen this stuff from last year, and like, you know, it's talking about he was a former tag champ and stuff like that, and really, truly, I was like, you know what? I'm going to ask him. So I asked him, and he showed me the place and who I needed to talk to and stuff like that. And I was like, okay, cool. And we decide, and so it's like, well, not we. I decided, it's like, I'm gonna go. So I emailed them, was told like name and like, you know, what I was supposed to fill out and all that stuff, age. So did that and went there, and it's like a lot of stuff that I would never have expected from doing this, and I didn't know what to expect walking into the building day one, because from what I was told, from what I've seen online, I was like looking up, it's like, I wonder how these places are. Some of these places were like horrendous. Like they would like basically treat you like dirt, treat you like crap, never taught you literally anything. So I was like, all right, well, let's go.
That was a moment of possible discouragement.
It was. It really truly was, because I did not want to have this moment of saying, like, you know, being beat down to a degree where of having this guy just having your money beat and just basically beat the crap out of you. You know what I mean? Right. So, and this place was like open arms and like all that stuff, and like few people trusted, and I was like, later on, few people like I learned to trust, and most of those people now trust a lot, and it's just one of those awesome things. And we're gonna like, and talked about recently how I made my referee debut, and I was like really excited that happened, and just hoping that maybe an actual wrestling debut would come along soon. But then yet the only true motivator is myself, and you have friends along the way, like such as yourself, who will help you along the way. But at the same time, you will have, like, especially with this, my mom, stepdad, really, and my grandmother really truly weren't 100%. They don't approve of this. They didn't approve of me doing wrestling, and I haven't asked them for a penny of this, like penny out of it. In that, like, just been, but I don't. There's no other way to say this, like, but busting my butt, going there back and forth, like with working.
Quite literally, huh?
Like literally.
Busting your butt.
Yeah, I busted my face one time. Like that's another story.
Oh man.
But yeah, just after the fact of having these, like, you know, people being very open and very accepting of who you are, like not giving a care in the world of who you are or where you came from, but they were like it was like felt like a family. It's like, you know, because early this January I had an incident that prevented me from going, and all of a sudden it just had this, I want to say, drive to just this.
The rest was well needed to clear your head.
Well, I don't want to say rest, but like, because it eventually didn't, because my mind was just, I want to say I was like really truly that desire was coming back to wanting to get back into there, and
that could have definitely helped. With
true.
The desire to get back there, so it
like, and that hunger for more,
right?
And so, which that record that really truly helped in the long run, and well, it helped for the time being. And going back to what I said about what was my like, you know, for your desire, right, and stuff like that, it was my desire so far, like, well, not desire, what for inspired. So my inspiration, yeah. So my inspiration was basically, what got me into it was I was at a friend's house, like after a soccer game and stuff like that. Went to his house, hang out, and basically having fun. And we finished what we were doing, and WrestleMania 27, and the match that came on when we were finished was Triple H versus Undertaker the first time, and you know, the next year was Triple H versus The Undertaker again, you know, end of an era match, which was one of the best matches ever. And same thing with Triple H, which it was one of the greatest things that I said, this was awesome. And then, I don't know, a couple years ago, like that, desire just like came in of like, I want to try it. I actually want to do this, you know?
Yep.
Because wrestling wasn't, believe it or not, wrestling was not my first desire to do something. My first thing was an astronaut, then back to flying. But the thing of it was wrestling was always just coming back. And it's like, I reckon we're just saying like a sign to say, hey, go do this. Yep. Like, you know, go do this. Like, I'm like saying, hey, I'm here, knocking on the door.
It's amazing the things that just pop up and kind of lead you to this one thing. You know what I mean?
Right,
the
right.
Signs come up everywhere, and I don't want to say it's like blatantly obvious.
But it wasn't. It's not blatantly obvious, but it's making itself known.
It's very subtle. Yeah, it's just there nagging, and sometimes you need to humor that,
right?
That nagging, and just see where it leads. But that's not with everything,
right?
If you get a
like an annoying person, they're just nagging you on the sword. It's like
you get a nagging. Like, I want to try pot. No, don't give in to that.
Don't do drugs, kids.
That's dumb. But you know, like things like career choices or
like
relationships, friendships, whatever it might be, you know, whatever it is.
But well, we're not trying to say don't do. We're like, you know, go with the flow, but like really truly don't not like just start like doing heroin because
no, don't do that.
I was like, no, these people are doing this. It's like
not cool at all.
Well, to some people it is, but it's I don't like you know.
Yeah, well, to them it is, but they're the people who end up, you know,
somewhere.
Put away the crack before the crack puts you away.
Walking on the sun by Smash Mouth.
Yeah, don't be messing around with that junk.
Yeah, but in all reality, basically at the end of the day, that wasn't basically inspiration, but like I want to get away to the fact that the only like is there challenges along the way for like doing wrestling? Yes, like it's definitely not cheap. I mean, it's not as expensive as $10,000, but it's expensive in the like, you know, that like $10,000 you probably could go ahead, like, you know, if you have the money you could go ahead and pay it off and all that crap. But like with wrestling, that's in the long run, it's expensive because
they do that once, twice a week, or it would add up.
Right. I mean, especially with me, I have a long drive for that, and that's like basically that's basically like, you know, for me with my vehicle right now, that's like a quarter of a tank.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you're your own motivator, right? You're the person that basically says no matter what, whoever is in the way, you got to, forget all the naysayers. Like, those are the people who try to put you down, but at the same time, who can stop you other than yourself, right?
Right.
Like your dreams and your motivations.
And I'm going to add this. Should you put your faith in God with these things and tell him your desires and everything? You want to do this, do wrestling, do aviation, whatever it might be. And should you put your faith there, then who can ever stop you? You know
I mean, that's actually a Bible verse, so.
You
but
should put your faith in God with these things, and who can ever stop you? And that's not to say you'll get your way every time.
I mean, sometimes the only answer is no, so you're like, I want to go back to the part about talking about people who just keep on telling you no, like, I don't want you to do this or crap like that. It's like there's sacrifices that comes with this, like with anything. Right. There's sacrifices that comes with friendships, relationships, like, you know, career choices. You're gonna put something on the line. No matter what, you may not think about it, but something is always on the line, like as far as, but you don't think about it. Like, for example, me, I kind of had to put up work hours off the side, just able to do this. Like, just able to do basically a training day for wrestling. And that's a paycheck that could basically go to something, right?
Right.
But if you, again, it's like right now, I may not get paid for this. Like from what I've heard from one of the main trainers there, they're saying sometimes you might not make money off of this for years, like sufficient money. I mean, and this also funny account. Some people say the amount of the amount of work that you put into something is something you could get back out of it. Like, you know what I mean?
Yep.
So, like, all right, I'm gonna try to find an analogy. All right, so let's say you're left. You know what? Getting in shape is actually the perfect one right now. So you're working out, you're lifting weights, right? So if you put like little, get the fuck. You need to work out the triceps to your biceps. So if you're doing things half-assed, you're basically gonna get half-assed back from it, or barely anything.
Right.
I mean, if you're like going after a goal, like this.
Anything, that's with anything. You invest half yourself, you're going to get half the dividends returned.
Right.
So, I mean, you may not even get any dividends paid back.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I mean, if you give it your all, you should, I don't think you should say should or you deserve it all. But is there rewarded towards the end of it? Absolutely. There's Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like with me, I honestly thought I wouldn't be able to referee matches until next September. But look,
what happened? Here you get refereeing matches.
I referee matches now. Hooray!
Yep, it's because you're investing yourself in it.
Right.
It's returning right now.
Now, like they said, some people just get it faster than others. But this is what I want to say to people right now. If you work as hard as you can, not just half-assing it, but if you bust your ass, trying to do something, if you bust your ass at work, no matter if nobody's watching, I love this saying, somebody's always watching.
Right.
You never know who's watching. There could be always someone behind the corner noticing you're working off while other people are slacking off at the back.
Right. Integrity is a trait
that's
slowly growing thin. I mean, it's slim, I should say.
It's not a common trait anymore. Let's say that.
Integrity. I mean, you're the same person, no matter who you're with. You've got the same work ethic, no matter in what field. Well, that's kind of a bad example, I guess. But you know what I mean. You do the same. You do as good a job.
You shouldn't
yourself without someone having to stand over your shoulder and tell you how to, or tell you what you should be doing, as you would with somebody there with you. You know what I mean?
Right.
Obviously, you gotta be trained to do your job properly. But,
come on.
Once you figure it out.
I'm busting my ass 3 times a week.
Yeah.
About to be 2 times a week the way gas is looking.
Yep.
I mean, not saying that's gas prices are a pain in the butt. But at the end of the day, it's you're your own motivator. Wrestling, from what I asked Braxton earlier, wrestling is basically definitely a mental thing. And because, is there some physical aspects to it? Yes.
Absolutely.
Dude, the first day, afterwards, I've worked more muscles, groups than I ever have in one day.
See, I worked muscle groups I didn't know I had.
Yeah, basically, holy crap, my abdominals were, fucking sore. I could have been over, half a day.
Oh, my God.
It's true, though. The mental aspect comes in because if you're nervous about something, you're worried about messing up, and then you actually do mess up, that's a mental thing. A mentality is how you go about it with your own mentality is all up to you. But if you're just gonna, there's a word, and I'm not thinking about it right now. God dang it! What's the word? You'll probably come back to my money later. But again, it's like, your mental aspect, how, if you're like, just keep yourself calm and trying to find a way to collect yourself, you may find better results than you worried about, you being nervous 10 minutes ago.
Cool as a cucumber.
What?
That's such a funny phrase.
Where in the world did that come out of?
That's such a funny phrase, though.
It's like I haven't heard that phrase in years.
Oh my god.
Cool as a cucumber.
That was a dumb interjection. Keep going.
Yeah, that was a very dumb interjection. I don't want to hear any more interjections for the night.
Alright, I'll just get out. Oh, man.
Necesito reverse.
Yep. Oh my god.
But, like, my first match, I was nervous as a freaking, I don't know what, I was just basically jittery as one of those poodles who just got freshly shaven. You know what I'm talking about? You ever seen those dogs like are freaking jittery like all the time?
Yep.
I was one of those. Like, I was just as nervous. Like my freaking cool was like non-existent.
Yep.
But next show that we had, I was a lot calmer, like, about it. Like, well, I had a referee multiple matches that night, but still, like, I was a lot more calmer, more collected. But at the same time, once you cross that line of the unknown, and once you realize that it's okay, it's okay, sometimes to fail. It's okay to fail because, but if you don't do anything without that failure, and you don't learn from it, you go nowhere. You progress nowhere.
Right.
But I don't know if Braxton got any questions. I mean, if you have anything like questions for me, because I was the one who asked you a lot of questions.
I don't know. I can't really think of. I mean, anything I could have asked you, basically answered already.
Oh, that's cool.
Like.
Oh, well, my bad.
Well, it's okay.
It's okay. Yeah.
Make my job a little easier. But,
But who's really asking the questions?
yeah, who's asking the questions?
We will ask the questions. The KGB will wait for no
Wait
one.
for no one.
Our own little comedy sketches in the middle. This is perfect.
Yep.
Right. Alright, so, but I don't think I have anything else to add upon this. But if you guys have any idea for what to do this, because I think I might do this with more friends or along the way. If you guys got anything, an idea for this somewhat podcast, let me know in the comments section below. Because this is going up on YouTube, because I have no idea where to put a freaking podcast up.
Yeah, I don't know much about them either.
I don't know much about them. All I know is it's going up somewhere.
All I know is they're super popular for some reason right now. Gosh, no.
Right. Why do you think I tried to do it?
Yeah. Don't reveal your secrets.
Oh no, my secrets.
Gosh, dang it.
Gosh darn it.
Yeah, it's okay.
We live and learn.
It will be okay. Learn
too.
from your failures.
Well, learn from yourself yet, you jackass.
Gosh.
But yeah, it's something that I really just am enjoying, and it's wrestling has become a stress reliever. So that, and
That's
I'm glad
that your career idea, your ideas for a career could also be your stress reliever. You know what
Right.
I mean, that's really.
I mean, same thing with golf. Golf was like kind of the same reason, even though it was like, having a half-assed, like a shitty day. Like, I could just go out there, I may not.
How convenient is it that the thing you want to do the most is in fact your stress reliever?
I know, right?
And you can eventually make money from said stress reliever. But
Stress relief. It's fantastic.
yeah,
Like, so, like, from where, like, inspire relationship or, like, inspire things, like, do you think do you think family would be one of those key things that would be inspiration? Like, well, you know what, going back to the questions for asking for you, like, do you think your family was one of those, people who try to inspire you, or no?
inspire me
to do fly? Like, you know, like, were they fully on board, yes or no? Like, when you first started doing it?
Yeah, I mean, they gave me all the support I could have ever wanted in reality.
And what was that support, you would say?
What do you mean, what was the support?
Like, well, obviously it had to be money or some form of fashion.
Right,
but,
yeah.
like, was it, like, you know, not financial support, or, like, you know, or was it, like, you know, physical support as to saying, hey, we support this, you know?
Financially and the ladder that you just said right then. So it's like they...
The ladder? What ladder?
The ladder.
Who has a ladder? Sir, do you have a ladder?
Oh my God. But anyhow, yeah, it was financial, both financial means and the fact that you know, they were excited by it. My mom and dad were extremely excited about it. They still are. I mean, they always talk about. I constantly wonder when I'm going to be able to take them flying. And I've got nothing but support from my friends, you know, as well.
Hey,
in the same in the same as the parents. Not, I guess you couldn't say quite as much, but you know, parents are parents, and then your friends. They gave me support as well. Friends did. They're all wanting to know when it's time to go flying too. And
speaking of flying, wait, like,
hold
on, but like, you know, and you basically finished your final written exam, right? Or
yeah, I just did that last week actually. My final airman knowledge test for the private pilot.
So do you have to do a flying test?
Yeah, you got to do a. FAA has this examiner who is going to do a evaluation of your flying.
What does he examine?
Your flying skill.
Okay.
Your ability to do maneuvers within standards, your safety procedures, and just a couple other things, but things in the field of flying, basically.
Okay. It's like I put you on the spot right there.
They'll ask you some questions and everything.
Like, you know, what does your vehicle do?
Make sure you can answer correctly and all that stuff. But, yeah, things are looking up right now. Things are really looking up.
All I can say is that my uncle was kind of like, you know, we'd be the only one asking me, like, what I do for the training. Big shout out to him because, you know, out of family, he was like, and, well, my brother was on the same thing. He was like, you know, saying that, like, you know, glad you found something that you want to do. But at the same time, they're always saying, do you have a backup plan? I'm like, this is the only path I can see right now, so.
Right. And it's not saying a backup plan could hurt, you know.
Right, but.
I mean, if this is what you want to do, and it's what you really want to do.
I invested like basically almost, I want to say 8 months into it, and I'm not looking back now, so.
Exactly. And if you keep investing in it and doing like you're supposed to do, getting better every day, then it may be the only way you ever need. You know what I mean?
Right.
Backup plan may have never been needed.
Right. Which, and people don't see this though, but like, there are multiple backup things in wrestling that you don't see. Like, one, your main, most physical thing would be wrestler. And then, like, you know, you get your referees, get your managers, commentators. What are you doing?
I had to adjust my lumbar support.
Your lumbar support.
Oh, gosh. Oh.
But yeah, there's like multiple things like within it that you don't. Like, there's some behind the scenes stuff that you don't normally see, like trainer, stuff like that. Like, you just don't, like, a lot of stuff that behind the scenes that you really truly don't get to see. Which, again, like, not saying that my main goal is wrestler. Like, that's what I want to be. I want to be a pro wrestler. And right now, from the way my cards are being dealt, from like the way my hand has been dealt to me, things are looking up. But at the same time, you got to know how to play it. You know what I mean?
That's right, because you can get the best hand, and if you don't know how to play it, or you play it incorrectly, then it was never a good hand.
Right. Which, like, I want to say poker, like, you know, Texas Hold'em, that game. is the best example I can think of, right? Like, you know, you got an ace and you got a king, but both of them, well, an ace, hold on, how can I say this? An ace and a 10, right? Same suit. But like, you know, he's like, oh, like, you know, like, you know, two of them are not the same suits, but they're lining up to be this royal flush. You know what I mean?
Right.
But like, you know, in the end, that's like, you know, you get your jack and your queen. Next one is like, you know, 9 clubs, and you got 8 of clubs. And it's like, oh man, I may not get this. But the last card that is dealt is, you know, the king of spades, and you have your ace and your 10 are spades. The rest of them and their jack and queen are spades. You basically won the game right then and there. You basically got the best hand in the deck. But if you fold too early, you lost your winning hand.
You don't know what you're looking at. For one, you've lost it. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's just to anybody who's just playing it, who doesn't know what they're looking at, it would just be just another set of cards. And if you know what you're looking at, you know what you've got, then it's worth something. But if you don't know what you've got, it's not worth anything. And that's something that you can use as a metaphor as well for people in life. So
life is
take a step back sometimes and notice what you've got and be appreciative for that.
Right.
Because if you don't know what you've got, is it worth anything? Because you got, well, it could be worth something. But
right.
If you take a step back and you look at friendships, look at your relationship with your parents, look at how your career is going, anything of that nature, it makes you more appreciative of the things that you've got going good for you.
Right.
And basically, that's about all I was going to say on that.
Okay, but I was like, I was waiting for you to keep going.
I kind of lost it.
You lost your train of thought?
Yeah, I did.
But, again, if you're going after a career, it's all a risk. It's all a gamble. Like, certain things are a risk. Like, if you're
afraid to take risks either.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, you and I basically took, like, one of the biggest, like, one of the risks that we could possibly take in our standards. Like,
you went on into college and moseyed around.
And not even use that degree.
Not, like, trying to slander college by any means, but I'm just
no,
saying,
oh God, no. I mean, college is great. I mean,
some people just never really figure out what they want to do. And
my brother was one of them.
That happens.
Right.
But you know, if you just go to college and you party and you mosey around and you don't take any risks, so.
Hold on. Party is a risk. If you're underage.
Well, no, I'm just saying.
Just in general, right?
You can't take it out of context.
Yeah, I mean, it's a true.
You can't take it out of context.
I mean, am I wrong though?
In this context, you know.
Hold up, but am I wrong though?
No, but you know.
But it's for the wrong reasons. But like we're not like, you know, shitting on colleges by any means. Like, you know, you got your doctors, you got your lawyers, you got people who become cops, like, and all that stuff. And, like, you know, even freaking people that go to the military, they go to the freaking college.
Some of the most educated people in the world.
You're freaking right.
In the military.
And it's the most deadly people in the world. Especially USA, good God.
Yeah.
But, I'm thinking about it in this episode/podcast here. Maybe in 3 months, or I want to say 3 or 6 months time, we may come back to this. Who knows? Like an update.
See where things are.
Yeah, and you know, and all that stuff. So who knows? But I'm gonna say this will be end of podcast number uno.
By that point, I will have been to a wrestling show with Ben, and by that point, Ben will have flown with me to said wrestling show.
To said wrestling show.
You know, that's big hopes, but
it's big. It's big.
To go to a wrestling show in 6 months, yeah, but maybe not to be flying somewhere real far off.
Right.
But yeah, to go to a wrestling show,
it's definitely not that far off. Good God, no.
And then to you have at least flown with me at least one time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
Definitely.
I think both flying and having wrestling match is a big check. Like,
Yep.
but both of those combined, we don't know. You will have to see on the next episode of this freaking podcast. I started my words there, but bloopers. Oh no.
How do you do that in podcast? What?
I don't know what's
What's
a blooper in a podcast. Is there a word for a blooper in a podcast? Please let us know.
I'm pretty sure it'd be the same thing.
Well, I'm probably certain. It just get edited out. It just like outtake.
I don't know.
You don't know. We're idiots.
We're off on a tangent now. Let's get back to normal.
All right,
To
this is the
topic at hand.
right. Well, this will be the end of the podcast. Y'all will see me in another video probably. Him, Braxton. I don't know yet.
More than likely.
Probably blowing up something.
Probably.
All right.
That's usually the case.
But most likely. All right. You guys have a fantastic day, evening, morning, whenever you're watching this. And
Listening.
bye. Well, true. And have a good day.
All right.